marked.
Let me try this. If I start the recording, maybe. Does that help? Does that give anything? Oh,
No.
No.
giving me more permissions. Uh, Someone's telling me it's retrograde. We do these like we just did one like a couple of months ago. This is not happening, guys.
Zoom be zooming.
Okay. Well, I have someone in the background who is Googling it, going, she has access to all my stuff. She's gonna go and figure it out. What are we trying to accomplish? Maybe I can help. Well, we're trying to turn on the panelist cameras because it's saying they don't have permission, which is very strange. Let me see what happened here. I just took you out, April, and put you back into panelist and see if, I want to see if that does anything.
No, I still cannot open camera.
Oh, do you want to make us hosts?
Can you make multiple hosts?
Or a co-host? You might be able to make us co-hosts.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I know.
Until Tovi tells us what to do, or Diana.
Diana is on it. Okay. Let me hold on a second. Let me go into, I don't even know.
You're using the webinar feature?
Yes. Zoom webinar. Says it at the top. This is how everybody got in.
Oh, there we go.
What?
There you go. See Janelle's comment.
Does this work? In your Zoom meeting, click participants. There's so much shit in here. What?
Allow panelists to start video.
Yeah, it's not giving that as even an option. I'm sorry, everybody.
It just means we have more time to chit chat. It's only 3 minutes after. It's fine. Everyone's fine. People are always running late.
But there's literally like, there's not a, like, nobody knows how to, like, it's not giving, oh, maybe it's in the back end of Zoom. Diana, can you go log into the back end of Zoom, please, and see what's going on there? Because maybe that's where I have to
working on it.
Change. Okay, you're working on it. Anyways, guys, everybody, welcome. As it's being worked on, we've got the panelists here. We've got the people here. And it will still, we were going to start like 5 minutes after, so people have time to like show up. But today we're talking about the top strategies outside of social, and this was one of them, and it's not working. It's not helping. What I said was going to be really great alternatives. And also, I don't want people to think that we are saying no social, because that is definitely not what I'm saying. It is in addition to and alternatives, because we just never know what social is going to be doing. I'm wondering, Diana, if it has something to do with you put in like no registration. They don't need a passcode to enter. I don't know if that has something to do with it.
No, it's not allowing me to make that change.
What if we leave and you you go into our settings and bring us back in, like the other panelists?
Promoting an attendee to panelists, sign into Zoom desktop clients.
Promote to panelist. We are panelists.
Yes, you're already panelist. Oh my gosh, there's like literally we have no rhyme or reason for why.
So when I ran a Zoom webinar in February, we tested everything ahead of time. This will make you feel better. And the whole premise of the call was for it to be a Q&A, and Q&A was disabled and it could not be turned on. Yeah, I wonder if we exit and log back in. That's what I was thinking.
Okay, ladies, you guys leave and come back.
We're leaving and coming back.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
I'm gonna put on more lipstick.
Okay, put on more lipstick. I'm afraid if I log off that everybody is going to disappear and they won't be able to get back in.
Yeah, don't you log off.
Because am I the host or Diana, or are you the host right now? Because there's a co-host and a host. You're co-host and I'm a host.
Right.
Okay.
It still says we can't do video.
Hold that thought. I have an idea. Megan, I just made you a co-host. Can you check to see if that makes?
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see what.
Oh, yay.
There we go. It worked.
Oh.
I'm ready to take over the show.
Oh, wait a second. Oh,
Hang on.
I'm
coming.
I think I may be a tech wizard, guys. I don't want to jinx it. I see 4 boxes.
Hey, we did it. We did
Oh
it.
my gosh. Okay. So thank you to, who was it that was like, everybody get off and come back on? Whoever that was. Janelle, was it you? We love you.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you just got to go back to basics. And
Oh
what
my-
we
right?
used to do with like videos, like we'd blow on them, like that's basically what we just did.
Oh my gosh, the tapes. I freaking love it. I think April's gone and coming back, but I had her in here. She was here.
She may have been having problems with her video because
Okay.
it seemed like she couldn't turn her video was not what she wanted. Maybe she was trying to change. Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't get my camera was turning on, but it's on my end now. So hold on.
That's okay, April. You've been patient with us. Everything's patient. Anyways, ladies. We are only 8 minutes past schedule. So thank you everybody who is here, who is patient. We have fixed the technical difficulty almost. And we are ready to go. I'm so excited about this conversation because it is something that comes up. So what is happening, team? This is where I need like extra music going on, but I'm going to spare all the dramatics because we're behind time now. I know April has to jump off to something and I want to get this party started. So guys, here's what I want everybody to know. This is a candid conversation and I want you to feel free to disagree. Feel free to interrupt. We all are coming from different perspectives with marketing. We all have different expertise. I chose you strategically because of what you bring to the table. And I know a lot of my clients are in here, my past clients, some of your clients, and a lot of people are like fed up with social media. They're just like, oh my God, can I get off here? And as I was saying in the beginning, if you guys are just joining, we are not here to bash social and to say everybody don't do social media, because we literally promoted this whole thing on social media. Okay. So that's not the point of this. The point is to have alternatives because we do not own the social media platforms. We are building our businesses on borrowed land. And we's be done with that. We need alternatives. And I know you 3 have amazing alternatives to marketing your businesses. And the first thing I want to ask you guys is, are we all in agreement or not around if you are an entrepreneur, a person in business, then you are by default a marketer?
Yes.
Yes, do we all agree? You don't have to agree with me. I said it literally today on Instagram. I was like, you a marketer, if you in
So
you get paid for it.
So what I often say to people now, and I think this is like it ruffles feathers, that if you are a business owner, you are also a content creator. So it's like the same way of saying the same thing, that I think that to successfully market our businesses, we are content creators in some way. Now, obviously, as a business owner, the way that we create content is different. So, you know, the way that we do it, how we approach it might be different. But I think that people will say, like, I'm not a content creator. I'm not a blogger. I'm not an influencer. But in some ways, as a brand or a business owner, you are. Like that is what marketing is, I think, in many ways. Now, I know not everyone agrees.
After my own heart here, guys. You know that's why I'm going to be on that bandwagon. Stephanie was saying, if that's the case, I fired myself a long time ago. Anything you guys want to add to that, Brenna or April, around like if you are in business, you are a content creator?
Well, I was thinking, made me think, like, what's the definition of marketing? Like, we all talk about it, but so I was Googling it as we were talking about it. And it's the activity or business of promoting and selling products or services. So I think by definition, we are marketers, whether we delegate it, whether we do a lot of it, whether we realize we're marketing or lack thereof, we are the marketers behind our business for sure.
Boom. End of discussion.
Yes. Google said we are. So that's
right. So I really want this discussion to be an opportunity for people to get in the heads of marketers. Like, we all do things differently. And I had a recent conversation with a client who I was mapping out how she should do something on like a scrap piece of paper at a restaurant. I was like, and then you do this. And that's how I'm just like, and she's like, my brain doesn't work like your brain. It doesn't do that. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So I want to know for you guys, if you guys could share, how do you, when you sit down to start a campaign of some sort, or you're looking to sell something, what is your process? What's like the couple of steps, like the key steps that you go through? From like, I always start with the end in mind, but I'm curious, I will share mine later. I'm curious what you guys do. April, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. This is kind of an easy answer for me, and it's going to sound pretty gratuitous, but I start really with storytelling. I start with like, well, what's the story I would tell? You know, what would be relevant if, you know, to the end result? And so I backfill from there, but I start with usually my own story or a relevant story that I know of that would be relatable to the end goal, whatever that is, whatever that marketing campaign is about. And that's kind of my top line thought process. I mean, I work in storytelling, so storytelling is very central to everything that I do is communication style. And then the second thing is, and I always say this about storytelling as well, is like number one rule of storytelling is to know who you're talking to. So like, who's the audience, right? So really getting in the mind of who exactly am I talking to? And then from that, how do I need to communicate to that person? And I say person, even though we're marketing to lots of people, I always try to think of one person and make my communication style feel very intimate and familiar, because I always say, treat your audience like a best friend. You need to communicate to that person as if they are your best friend, right? And so you're not going to be speaking to you all and everyone and hey y'all, you know, I'm from Texas, so I say hey y'all, but you know, it's you, and it gets to be really intimate. So knowing the audience is super important, knowing the story that you want to tell that can kind of be that top line, you know, inspiration piece. And then from there, continue to communicate until you get people across the finish line of where you want to take them.
Okay, I love that. So I'm just going to ask a quick follow-up. Just to make it really tangible for people, can you give me an example of a story you used when you were trying to get like to the end goal? Like, what was the end goal and what was the story you used to communicate that?
I mean, today's a perfect example, right? Like, I promoted this event and the end goal was I wanted people at this event, because I know if I think about my audience and the audience I'm trying to speak to in this situation, I know that I hear all the time from my own clients and my own community members that social media is exhausting. And personally, I feel it too. So I backed all the way up to that top line story of like, I'm raising my hand over here. Go look at my Instagram story right now.
Yeah,
it's up. I am raising my hand. Sometimes, I mean, I'm on social media a lot. I really embrace it, but oh my gosh, it's exhausting to me. And I can only imagine, I know from my other clients that they feel the same way too. So that's just a small story that puts me in the shoes of the ideal audience that I'm trying to talk to. And then it provides the context for me to then offer that thing that I'm offering, which in this case was, hey, come to this call today. We're going to be sharing things that you can benefit from so that you don't have to exhaust yourself on social media. There's other really smart strategies that you can put into place. So that's an example.
Perfect. Yes. Go check her story. I did see that today. What about you, Brenna, Megan?
Yeah, I think I always start too with the end of mind is like, okay, what's this action we want this person to take? And this is actually exactly what we do inside my program. And so we start with that, at the very end is I help people with launches or selling their products or services through a launch. So that's the very end goals. Like, what is that offer that we want people to take advantage of? And then we figure out, we go way back to step one, which is, and this is exactly following up with what April said, is okay, where is this person at now?
Mm-hmm.
And figuring out the gap in between. And by doing that is voice of customer research, which is not super sexy, but that's where we start, right? Like we have to figure out what we have to say and do, what our person has to understand, what they need to feel comfortable to buy from us. All of these things, we have to figure that out so that we can know how to market, right? What type of content and what we need to say and do to push someone, if you will, push might not be the best word there, but guide someone to make the best buying decision for themselves. And that's where we have to start. So, but if you don't know where you're sending someone to, it's, you don't know where you're sending someone to. So it always starts with the end in mind. It's funny, I was talking to a private client yesterday, and I was actually doing his strategy for him and for his upcoming launch. And I don't know if you've ever, Monique, I know you have a little one. There's a book out there that's If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. And my favorite, If You Give a Moose a Muffin. If anyone who's, you should these are children's books.
I need to
but
look
it's,
this up.
oh my gosh, they're the best. But it's like, if you do this action, then this happens. And then if this happens, then this will happen. And that is what, that instead of us getting overwhelmed in our marketing, it's just like, okay, if I say this, for example, we were talking about a transformation with this client. And I was like, okay, we're going to say, I'm just going to make this broad. You're going to make $1 million. And you're like, oh my gosh, I want to make $1 million. But then our person is saying, oh, I want to make $1 million. But then we go, wait, I don't know if I can make $1 million. I don't know if I trust this person to guide me to make $1 million. Right. So it's getting ahead of the thought of the person in front of us. And the best way to do that is through our research and asking questions and figuring out, how is this person thinking? What do they want? And what's stopping them from taking action to buy from us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's stopping them and the conversations they're having with themselves makes for just marketing gold. I love that. Megan?
And when you do that, well, your people are going to respond to you, get out of my head.
Yeah, that's
I love
what we
that.
want. I want everybody to say that. Monique, you were in my head today. I could hear your voice.
Yeah.
That's what I want people saying.
It's funny because what I was thinking when both April and Brenna were talking was, and formulating what I wanted to share, is that both of you have sort of touched upon some of the things that I personally, I just want to acknowledge this and put this out there. And I think everybody can agree that giving other people advice, being able to have clarity and be super clear on other people, what they should be doing for their plan, is a lot easier. As my friend Monica Snyder says, when you are in your own business, you are in the bottle, you can't read your own label sometimes. And it can be really hard. And I myself, actually, Brennan and I have had conversations because I feel like I know all the things I'm going to do, but my pre-launch is never that organized, and it really bothers me. It really bothers me. But I want to touch upon a few different things, and that is, April was mentioning how, even talk about today's conversation. I'm a Pinterest person. I'm known for being in that lane. That has always been my thing. And so my very first voice of customer interview that I did, do you want to know? And this ties in with what Brennan just said. I sat there and I had a very difficult time. I knew why people should use Pinterest, but what did my audience think? And I'm not here to convince people that you have to use Pinterest. I really, actually, those are not my preferred folks in my world. I prefer for you to come to that decision on your own. And I had someone who was in my program, loved it. And I said, why Pinterest? Why this program? And they shared with me, because I find, and this was 5-6 years ago, I find Instagram so exhausting. It empties my cup. It just like it's an energy zap, and I just don't feel like it's the place for me. And it's funny because that's always a little bit how I have felt. I kind of dip in and out. I love Instagram, but I do find that for my own marketing for myself, and I know why I love being on Instagram, I find that I go in and out of energy for it. But I find that so in the work that I do and a lot of my own business, I really start in when I'm thinking about promoting a product or service or, anything, I really start with that voice of customer information. I did something new in the last 6 months, and I spent tons of time on threads, on Instagram, in Facebook communities, and conducting interviews and reading old interviews I had that I just was pulling all these little nuggets about sort of like, what are our frustrations with social media? What are our sort of, what do we think about SEO? And anyways, I was bringing all this information together to sort of, and I know this term is a little bit outdated and not everyone loves it, but I really, as someone who works in the Pinterest world, it's our success on Pinterest is defined by our content marketing. And our content marketing is often defined by our customers. You can never know your customer too well. And so what I often look at is, what are they struggling with? Talking about where are they at step 0, 1, 2, and 3. So really looking at those pain points. And that's the sort of the term. I know some people say like, we shouldn't be using those terms anymore. But what I really think about is, where are people at in the beginning of their journey? And then how can I address that through my messaging so that people, just like you all shared, I'm not from Texas, but I'm going to say y'all, I'm going to appropriate that term as a Canadian, is that we're really thinking about when you read it or you see it, you think like, oh yeah, I really needed this. Oh, I was wondering about that. And actually a new thing that I've started doing is taking conversations that I have with friends and turning it into a piece of content. April talked about storytelling, but oftentimes I have people who are at beginner level, and then I have people who are much more intermediate. And so I'm like, what? I'm going to bring in a little bit of everything, and not, some things will be too advanced, but I love those conversations where people ask me very sort of intermediate, advanced questions about Pinterest. And that's when I start to get really excited.
I know, we like geek out on the thing that we know really well.
Well, just like your friend, right? At lunch, how you said how you were like scribbling away, and it's just like, that's why we each do what we do. We come to life when we can help somebody solve a problem. And that problem is, how do I market my product or my service?
I love that. So I'd love to hear like anybody in the chat, if you are exhausted, I want it on a scale like 1 or 2. If you're either, I'm in love with social right now, give me a 1. If you're like, I'm exhausted, I want you to post a 2. I want to see what's going on. Okay. So I would love for each of you to share. So social media, let's just say, not also, I will say Instagram, Threads, Facebook, shut down tomorrow. Now, tell me how you would go about marketing your services. What would you do? I'm so curious. I love to give this. This is actually a task I give to my clients because they're always like, it's so exhausting. I don't know what to do. I'm like, okay, imagine it didn't exist. Now, how do you operate? Because I do feel like when we are new to business, we have such a like naivete to things, and we're so innovative and we come up with so many things. And then once we're in business for a while, we get like, oh my God, can't think of anything. Right. So I love this exercise. April, who'd like to start?
Yeah, I'll start. So the first thing I would do is I would get on the phone, literally. I like so old school. And, but we have in our phone, even though the app to Instagram and Facebook might not be connected and working any longer, we have gold in our phone. And these are people that we're already in communication with. These are people that we already have access to. So it's our warm circle of influence, our network, people that we know that live in the town that we live in, that we know from previous towns that we've lived in, from jobs that we have had, from previous clients, to people that we've been on podcast with. to people that we network with, to people that we've been to events with. I met Brenna at an event. That's how I met her for the first time. We met at an event. You know, we met at Monique, you and I met inside of a group, like you know, it was a virtual group, but I have access to that group leader. And if I couldn't get a hold of you because we're only connected on Facebook, I would call that group leader and say, hey, can you get me Monique's contact information? Like, it's going to require some work, but if my business depends on it, right, I'm going to do the work. So that's step one, is I'm going to make a big fat list of all the people that I need to reach out to. The second piece is then before I reach out to them, I'm going to figure out what are my goals? Like, what do I need to have happen? And, you know, the biggest strategy that I use and that I'm here to share with you guys today is around getting in those rooms to be seen as a leader, be seen as the speaker, and go and share what you have to share. Go and share your expertise, your knowledge, and your wisdom by finding opportunities to go speak. So I'm going to reach out to a bunch of those people. I'm going to find out what do they have going on in their own communities and their own organizations and their business right now. Do they have any events coming up? And I'm going to find a win-win scenario. They probably need to fill time. They need to fill the microphone, if you will. They need to find someone that can lead because, you know, group hosts and community leaders and organization organizers, all that, they cannot be the only person all the time. And so I'm going to find out what do they have going on and do they have a need? So it's always about coming from a place of service first, and then can I fill that need? And in some cases, that's going to be me offering up, like, I'd love to come and, you know, talk to your group about storytelling, about speaking, about visibility, whatever that it is that audience is going to need. Or, you know, let's do a podcast together. I have a podcast, so that's another platform I can share, right? So we're going to find ways to scratch each other's back, but those are the two biggest things that I would start with.
Okay, so I'm going to note, like, each of you giving me two. Gold is in the phone, guys, and getting in the room. I love it. Okay, Brenna, how about you? Instagram, social shuts down.
I would be slightly happy for a minute, but I'm in one of those modes. And let me back up. Like, I started my business as a social media manager. So like, I know social.
Okay, so she can say that. Yes.
Yeah. And I help people plan social media, Facebook. Like that's part of what I do inside my program. But now I help people inside the pre-launch plan program do all this. But right now, if all that stuff shut down, I wouldn't do anything different than really what I'm doing right now because I've built my email list. And so can't
email
say
list. You know, we don't talk about email lists.
Yeah. And so I was a social media manager who turned email copywriter, who turned pre-launch, an expert in pre-launch. But email is where your sales happen. Email is where you can build connection. Email is the thing that you own that doesn't go away. Back up your email list, even just in case. But like, email is so important. It's the cheapest way to advertise. It's the most effective way. And so I have spent time over the years building my email list. And so now that's how I market. And I can go and simply create a message that I send out in mass, make sales, have people reply to me, create engagement. So yeah, I think that's the thing that has been like, you want to be proactive now in thinking about your email list. And even if you are on social, how can you start thinking every week, putting it into your content plan of how, and honestly, I can be better about this myself, but it's just like, how can I at least, like, when you're thinking through, you know, everyone talks about all these buckets and what you got to do and entertain, like, no, like once a week, how am I pushing people to my email list on minimum? How am I doing a post about it? How am I doing it on stories? How am I going onto Facebook? You know, how can I get, and even going back to what April said is, if you are meeting people in person, you are going and speaking in groups, how can you push people to your email list after the fact, right? Like, to me, your email list is the hub. And there's this great quote by Amy Porterfield that now I'm not going to completely remember, but it's something like, the success of her business, she knows, is dependent on her email list. And that is the case for all of us.
I love it. She does say that often. And we all know Amy Porterfield is like the online getting shit done. Love that. Megan.
Yeah. So for me personally, Anyone who's in my world knows all roads lead to my email list. But really, when we started talking about this, my first question for anyone watching or for anyone who's sort of listening is, if those things happened, which, as somebody who has supported people who have 5 million subscribers on YouTube, had brand deals, literally $75,000 brand deals to go to a music festival, to post on Instagram, to have their Instagram account hacked while they were on the airplane. I got that phone call. I have had people who only sold
got
through
chills.
their Facebook community, and guess what happened? Facebook just deleted their Facebook community. How do you make sales? So I have seen this live out in real time. Because I've always been the Pinterest girl, right? So people are like, Megan, what do I do? So we're not gonna freak out. What we're gonna do is we're gonna ask ourselves, if those things did not exist, how else would you market your business? And then the biggest thing to help root you, personally, I think, is, do you want to use audio? Do you want to use video? Or are you somebody who likes to write? So I think that I love speaking. That's how April and I met too. I came in and did a guest workshop. But I do recognize some people are not into speaking. But the thing is like, you can take when you do speaking gigs and turn that into an email. Anyways, we could go on and on and on. But what I do like to acknowledge is that when you're trying to come up with that marketing plan and look at alternatives to things that are heavily social, the way that I talked about this event was sort of unsocial social. I think that we can recognize that some forms of social media are necessary evils, that we need to do those things to help have ways that people that are easy for them to reduce the friction so they can reach out to us. But not all of us are filled up by creating Instagram reels or responding to comments. And that's why, Pinterest has always been, from the early days for me, I don't talk to anyone there. Like, I really don't, once in a blue moon. But I think that what we do have to, in a very honest, transparent way, is recognize. So I like a little bit of everything. And in my own marketing of my own business, you're going to see me everywhere. I'm on Threads. I'm on YouTube. I have not been back there in a long time, but I have a YouTube channel that hums away. So I focus on a lot of what I call search-oriented activities. But I recognize that not everyone loves to create blog content, say, that lives on their website. Well, that's fine. If you're a video person, YouTube. YouTube is a search engine. Pinterest is a search engine. So it relies, though, on that you are creating content. You want to drive people to your products, to your services, to your valuable content, but that can be really done in different ways. Yeah, podcasting, exactly. So that's why I like audio. So if you're really into audio, I've been playing around with private audio. Actually, listening to Brenna's recent summit on audio. I'm not a podcast person. I'm going to admit that. But I actually listened to Brenna's summit and I was like, I really like this. I can walk my dog and I can listen and learn and listen to my friends. I was listening to Gemma's interview, friend of mine, and I'm like, this is lovely. I feel like I'm in the room with them. And so I think if you're an audio person, great. If you love video, great. But you do sort of have to pick where you're going to show up. We can recognize that we need one method for discovery and one for platform. Email marketing is amazing. All roads for Megan lead to my email list, but emails marketing in general need to be discoverable. So we market, whether we're in a room, hosting a podcast, active on social media, you're generating leads to come to your email list. But those are the discovery platforms. So, with the exception of maybe ConvertKit, that has an aspect of discovery built into their email marketing platform, we need marketing methods to have people discover our email lists, which is why we all engage in different marketing activities, right? Anyways, that's my bit about that.
I love that. I love how you talk about you need the discovery and you need the platform, right? And it's funny that you talked about this person, not funny, scary, that when somebody got their Instagram shut down after they're being paid to post on social. And that's one of my biggest fears, because I built my business using Instagram. And when I went on mat leave, which if you're an entrepreneur, there is no mat leave, just forget about it. Didn't happen. But when I wasn't online constant for those few months, I saw things drastically change. And that was really when it became really evident to me that I was like, you cannot depend. You talk about not depending on it, Monique, but you actually have witnessed it now. You could not depend on this platform if you want to have a sustainable business. So I'm glad that you brought up Brenna's virtual summit. We need to talk about this because this was such first of all, I'd never seen anything like it. You got great results, Brenna. I'd love if you just told people, because I'm sure people are wondering, what was this virtual summit? Why did you do this? I know when we first started connecting, you were like, I hate being on video, Monique. I don't want to be on video. I need you for like 10 minutes. We're going to do this audio thing. And I was like, how are you going to build a whole summit over some messages? And I'm going to send you over Voxer. And then it was like, you had curated it so beautifully. So share with everybody a little bit what that looked like. I think people would be really interested to know that this is like an option for people.
Right. So I don't hate video. I just don't want to spend forever on video. And I definitely don't want to, if I would, for this summit,
Then it would be exhausting. You said
it
if
would
I
be
had
exhausting
to
for me to show up and talk to 15 people on video. Like I wanted, so when I came up with this idea, first of all, shout out to my friend Risa Corcoran, because I learned all things summit from her. But what happened is I was trying to think of how can I do this in a way that feels really good to me? I had I had lots of goals, but 3 main goals, which was easy on me as the person producing it, easy on the person, on my guests that was coming, the guest experts that were going to be part of the summit. And the third thing was, how could I make it really, really easy on the listeners? And so I wanted to keep these, I don't even call them interviews, I call them conversations. How can I keep these conversations bite-sized? So my idea, which by the way, if everyone, if you're listening to this, at first I thought I'm nuts. Like no one, like how am I going to go ask people like Laura Belgray and Kevin Rogers from Copy Chief? And like, how am I going to ask them to be part of this event where I just chat with them over Voxer? Like I thought it was kind of silly. And so my silly idea was actually the thing that has made this really special. So I came up with an idea that we do an audio only summit where I would ask guest experts one question, which is what's something that worked well in your last launch? And I really, really thought about this. So for anyone who's thinking about creating an event, I put a ton of intention and time to making sure it lined up. And this goes back to so much of what we're talking about with marketing, with my end goal. My end goal is for people to join the pre-launch plan program. So people don't think about pre-launch, right? Like that's not like their primary goal. So I had to think about like, okay, if I start talking about launches, people are interested in launches. So I was very intentional about the path. And I just started asking guest experts if they would be a part of it. And it's gone like my last summit. I don't even feel like it's a summit, but in its essence, it is. We had 1,900 listeners, people register. We raised something I do different with Behind the Launch is I don't make money from it. If anything, it costs me money. I give all of the money to charity. If you upgrade the ticket at the last event, it was $27 if you wanted to have lifetime access to the interviews. Plus you get a private call with me for Q&A for $27. So we raised 6,700 plus last time for this that I was able to donate to a wonderful charity. And so the reason why I love it is like asking guest experts like to do, people, not that people mind profit, we're in business, but there's something special about being part of something where we're collectively raising money we help children who struggle with reading. So that is really cool. The other really cool part about doing this Voxer Summit for me is that, like Monique said, she was one of our guest experts. We talk for 10 minutes over Voxer. It's super easy. And then I just take all those audio files and just smush them together. And that's what I publish. And so I don't have to do any video editing. If we mess up and you're on Voxer, you're like, whoops, gonna start over again, right? Like it just try to find, and I don't think in general, summits are easy, right? But I was like, how could I do this in a simple way that feels really, really good to me? And I think that is when you're thinking through your next marketing thing is like, okay, it's not everything's easy, but how can I make this the simplest thing for me that really feels good to everyone that's involved?
I just wanted to add here because I was a guest and I do a lot of video stuff for like when people are like, come on the podcast, they're all video podcasts now. Like there's very rarely somebody will do something that doesn't require you to do your hair and makeup anymore. And that same day that we had that planned, My freaking car had broken down. I had to take it to the mechanic. There were people driving me from Volkswagen from here to there. And I'm like on this thing with Brenna, like, Brenna, I promise I'm going to be there. She's like, Monique, it's totally fine. It's totally chill. Just message me when you're done. Like, it was just like that. I knew I didn't have to be like camera ready, so I could run around and deal with the emergencies in my life and then still like sit in a corner and do this like little back and forth with you. So when you talk about like that low lift for the guests, I would assert too that it would also help you get a lot more guests, and even like different calibers of guests, right? Who are just super busy, right? And you now have this opportunity to do something like really simple. I just think this is great. I think you guys should all just like take note of that and go back when you're talking about, because I'm a big component of like live. To me, that's like a live event still. And injecting those into your business so people have something to come to. Like, I feel like not enough people are thinking about their marketing always just like, okay, well, I post on social and nothing's happening. I just post on social. But like, you need to have things for people to come to, right? And you do launches, so I know you get that part. And I wanted to take it to April for a second. I want to talk about this power of speaking and getting in the room, because we've done a few of these. I know people in the audience have come to a few of our roundtables. The last 3 have been around speaking specifically. So that's why I wanted you to come and talk about like speaking as a marketing channel. And I know you both, Megan and Brenna, do speaking as well. So talk to me a little bit about how do you use, like, give me an example of like the real results you see from you coaching people to get on that stage. Like, what happens after? Because people don't know how to leverage that a lot of the times.
Oh yeah, that's such a great question, because I think people think the immediate goal is the speaking engagement itself, and like that there's just going to rain money that day. And that's not exactly how it works. Certainly there are opportunities where you can be paid to speak. And so there's going to be some money that comes into your account on the day that you speak. But more often than not, a lot, especially the type of speaking that I kind of advocate for, is less about getting speaking fees, although I am all for getting a speaking fee. Let me be really clear, because I want women to be paid highly for their work. But to be honest with you, a lot of times you're going to go speak and you're really looking about what's going to happen after you speak as a result of being in that room. And I call this the domino effect of speaking. And just to kind of give you an overview of what that could look like, when you are in the front of the room, whether that's a stage and it's formal and, you know, everyone bought a ticket to be there and they're all dressed up and it's an event, or it could be a virtual room, like Brenna's Summit is a perfect example, right? She still had people that were there as leaders, as experts, you know, giving their wisdom and sharing their takeaways from their own launches and their own things that were working in their business, whatever it may look like. It could be a small room of 50 people. It doesn't matter. But the idea is you're the one that has the microphone, the proverbial microphone, and you're the one that others are listening to. So you have their ear, right? You have the room. And this sets you up for really incredible things that can happen afterwards. And one of the things that I coach my clients through is, number one, we have to have a really compelling talk. You know, you have to really understand how are you going to capture the people that day. And part of what you're going to do is you're going to be really strategic about how you build your talk and the things that you seed inside your talk, so that people understand there is a way to connect with you beyond just being in the room that day. So after speaking at an event, number one, you've met people, right? That you've connected with people, whether it was in the room. Like, I'm looking through the chat this whole time. I'm like, oh, who do I know that's here? Who do I not know? Like, I'm paying attention to that as a speaker, right? But if you're physically in the room, you have the opportunity to meet people in the bathroom, meet people at the coffee station, whatever it is. And that's gold. Those are just new people that are in your world that they did not know who you were. There's so many people on this call today that did not know me until now, right? Because I'm getting an opportunity to speak and be in the front of the room. So we're getting to meet, we're getting to connect. Those people may come and follow me on social, right? They may come and follow get on my email list. They may come to my website. They may reach out to me in the DMs. I want to know more about speaking. I need some help in this arena. They may, strike up and just say, hey, I'd love to book a call with you, or I want to invite you on my podcast. So many things start to happen, and these are the dominoes that start to fall after you speak. If you are really smart about this, and this is what I teach my clients, is I teach people to track it. So we have a tracker that we suggest, and we track every activity that involves speaking so that you start to see. And I have a tracker that I've been using my own tracker for like 2 years now. And the first year that I did this, even though I was out speaking and I'm like, yeah, speaking is a good idea, we should all be doing it, but I really wasn't tracking it. And when I started tracking it, I tracked the first year that I tracked it, which when I was tracking it, guess what else? I was being more intentional about getting more speaking engagements, right? It just, they go hand in hand. So they had built-in accountability. Because if I'm tracking something, I'm going to be pretty upset if I'm like, well, there's only 3 little entries on my tracker. I need to get that up. So I was intentional about getting more speaking engagements when I started tracking. And then at the end of that year, I added up because I tracked it all the way through. Who did I meet? Who did I talk to? Who did I have follow-up conversations with? Where else did I get booked to speak as a result of that engagement? All those things, I tracked $97,800 in income that came from speaking.
Ooh, you
That was
hearing
an
about that?
additional
Hearing-
$100,000 to my business.
Okay, wait, April, I just want you to back up for a second because you actually answered the question that I was going to ask, which is what are you tracking? Because I do want to talk about some of these analytics guys about how do you determine if it's successful. So can you tell us again, I know you can't share everything because it is your proprietary, tracker, but what were some of the things that you just mentioned? Just say it again. So
I mean, I'm happy to share because I don't want to gatekeep information, you guys. I want all of us to win. So I don't have it in front of me, but it is literally like, I start with who did I reach out to? Like I start with my reach outs, like me getting on the phone and doing the thing that I told you earlier. I start there and I track it. And then I track who do I need to follow up with. And so I always have it in the running in the background so I can see what kind of activity I need to do on a regular basis. And then I get down to what is the speaking engagement that I booked from that? Okay, so now I'm on somebody's calendar to come into their virtual summit, or I'm going to go and speak to their group, or I'm going to be on stage at this mastermind event, or whatever it is. And then from that event, I track who were the hot leads, who came up to me afterwards, or who said something to me in the chat. Who do I need to follow up with? And then I do not wait for those people to follow up with me. I follow up with them. I go and find them. I search for them. I get in contact with them. Maybe they gave me their business card. And then I try to book meetings or whatever needs to happen. So I track my follow-up. And then I track all the way down to when I can go back. If you're always referring to it, you go, oh my gosh, she just joined my program. Wait a second. I met her at that mastermind event. I met her from a speaking opportunity, right? So I then start tracking, oh, so she just paid me $6,000 to be a client. Great. $6,000 goes on the tracker from that one speaking engagement because I have that person that I can actually connect the dots back to. Now, I would love to automate this. I'm not the tech person of this crowd, so I'm old school and I just do things kind of manually. But to me, it's part of my daily just activity of just like, hey, let's just check in on what's going on in your business. And when you keep it up to date, which doesn't require you to do that every week. I mean, I probably add to my tracker like monthly, what's going on. I just check in. Where did I speak this month? Who did I connect with this month? And I make sure it goes onto my tracker. So
Okay.
those are the types of things that I'm tracking, which is how it allowed me to literally trace $97,800 in the first year that I did this. I've been doing this a couple of years and that number has increased. But I mean, just the first year, you guys, that was eye-opening to me.
That's crazy. That is so amazing.
So when I tell you I am passionate about getting people out there speaking, even if you think I'm not a speaker, oh my gosh, you would be a speaker if you could add $100,000.
You're like, I'll be anything if you want $100,000. I can add it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you don't have to go speak in front of 10,000 people. We're not talking like that. We're just talking using speaking to grow your business. We're using speaking to market your business. We're using speaking to connect with people that do not know who you are right now, right? They don't know you. So I'm going to leverage other people's audiences. I'm going to leverage the women's conference that's in my town. I'm going to leverage the Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to leverage Monique because she brought me in today. I'm going to leverage Brenna, who may have me on her summit one day, right? Like all of those things. I'm going to leverage my circle of influence.
Mhm.
I didn't build that audience. I just went and used it.
I was gonna
so good.
I was going to
Yeah.
jump in and layer on that,
Yeah.
but you just said it, is it's also about people inviting you in. Like if you think virtually, I do a lot of virtual speaking. I have very young children, COVID, flying with young children. I haven't got back to doing in person. So if anyone's listening and thinking like, is this possible to do virtually?
Yes.
I have I have two good stories to layer onto this, but it's about coming into, and sometimes it's very unsuspecting. I got invited last fall by someone, and they're not my ideal audience, but I'm a yes lady. I love teaching live. I love things like this where we are like sharing information, teaching, answering questions. And I got invited into a very small program for pattern surface designers. Are they my ideal audience? Not necessarily. But the woman was lovely. She said she had been consuming my content for years. Talk about like Brenna and pre-launch. She had like been reading my content for years. And she said, I love your content. Would you be interested in coming in and doing some guest speaking? I said, I would love to. And I didn't think much of it. I don't track. I need to track. I'm a bit messy. There's a theme here, right? Me talking about Brenna's stuff and getting organized, me doing lots of speaking engagements, but not tracking them. So I'm an ideas person. So I went in and I did this speaking, and Erin is very, very, very well respected. That was the mentor who brought me in, and people love her and they trust anyone she brings in.
Yes.
The number of people that I have had reach out to me to hire I mentor Pinterest managers. So I've had 10 people reach out to me to say, hey, Megan, could we hire one of your Pinterest managers? I have had people join my program. I've had people join my free challenge that I run. And so it literally got an email last night. Hi, I'm joining your challenge. I watched your masterclass with Erin. It was so good. And then actually talking about meeting people in person. I was at a conference before COVID, and Gemma and I were hanging out because we knew each other. Gemma was on Brenna's Summit, Jenna Bonham Carter, and we actually were standing in the hall, and I introduced myself with Gemma to Lindsay, who owns Hello Audio. And that is actually, Hello Audio is a wonderful way to do private podcasting. And I've owned Hello Audio since like pre-launch and never used it. And Brenna's virtual audio only summit inspired me to do an audio aspect of my virtual summit that was video based, but we offered, I used to work in educational psychology. So giving access to learning materials that can be adjusted to different people's needs and preferences is really important to me. So we added in an audio only stream using Hello Audio for my virtual summit that was video, and people loved it. And I was inspired by Brenna's actually. I was like, I'm finally going to try this. I've known Lindsay for years. I have the technology that I've been paying for like, I don't know, as long as it existed. So a nice little tie-in for everything that you guys are both just speaking about.
Oh my gosh, I love the connections. And I'm just like tracking all the names. I'm like, we're all so connected. When I was thinking about you guys saying like, what would be the one thing you would do if social media shut down tomorrow? And I was like, I would literally do this exact thing that we're doing right here. This has been such a lot of my clients have been asking me like, what are these roundtables that you're doing? What is this thing? And really it's an opportunity for me to build my relationships with people who I think are pretty awesome and do pretty cool things. Like we've all been kind of connected in some shape or form. And for me to this is my opportunity to dive deeper into what they do as business owners, but because we also have complementary audiences, like we all do different things. And I like to be the one where people are like, do you know someone who, and I'm like, yep, yes, I do. It just so happens I had them on my roundtable, right? So it makes me want a connector. It helps with my own personal brand, but then it also exposes me to their audiences and them to my audiences. And this is like the marketing magic. And there's like a whole like behind the scenes on how like the whole thing is run. But this is one of the things I would do if Instagram shut down tomorrow. So I do want to ask Bryan a question, but before I do, I know April, you have to hop off. So before you go, is there any one thing that you want to share with anybody who is struggling with their marketing right now and are hating social? I know speaking is the thing that you're like, listen, whether or not you're a speaker, trust me, I can get you there. But is there any other thing that you want to share with anybody just because I know you got to go. I'm like, one of the things I do want to ask is if you use AI at all inside of your marketing. That's something we're going to talk about later, but anything you'd like to share on your way out?
I would back it up just to a broader view of what speaking is really about to me, which is storytelling. I'm very passionate about the work of storytelling in your business. I believe it is a workhorse in your business. When you learn to share your story in a really powerful way, it creates a lot of connection, trust, community, commerce for sure, conversions, all those fun things, a lot of C words. And it just does a lot for you to examine the path that you've been on. I'm writing a book currently, and it's about how to become an empowered storyteller, because a lot of us have stories that we're dragging around that feel very disempowered. And what I love to really encourage people and teach people how to do, especially women, is teach them how to turn those disempowered stories into empowered stories. And that cannot happen when these stories are hidden in the dark, right? They really have to be excavated. They have to be brought out into the light. And I would really encourage everyone to go on for a marketing standpoint. When I started my business, we all have to wear these marketing hats, right? Like we talked about at the beginning of the show. I didn't have a marketing background. I don't have any expertise in marketing whatsoever. I'm a former journalist. I was a television producer. So I don't know how to do anything except tell stories, really. And I'm not trying to dumb that down, but I don't have experience in any of these other things. I've had to learn it over the period of being an online business owner, right? But when I started, I'm like, well, the only thing I really know how to do is tell some stories. And so I used storytelling to market and grow my business while I figured out all these other things that we have to learn as business owners. So when I tell you it can be a workhorse in your business, it's the thing that if you just start telling some stories, it is a place that I would start, literally. And to use that on your social media. I mean, social media is a storyteller's platform. Podcasting, totally a storyteller's platform. If you think about email marketing, yes, we want to be selling and sharing things in our email, but like tell some stories in those emails, get people engaged in what you're doing, who you are, allow yourself to be seen, allow yourself to be heard, allow people to know you. Don't keep everything hidden and quiet. And even some of those vulnerable stories, the ones that feel a little disempowered to you right now, is the gold you are sitting on, right? It is truly the gold you are sitting on. Anytime I come out and I tell a story about myself where it's not the perfect version of April, I mean, talk about analytics. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Analytics tell a story, and they tell me every single time this is what your audience wants more of. So that's my big plug for storytelling. And of course, if you need help with that, I would love to chat with you further. But speaking is just a vehicle for you to share your story.
Before you go, April, make sure you drop maybe a link for people to be able to join your email list. There was actually a request from Kim above about ways to be able to follow up.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So before you drop off.
Thank you. Thanks for that reminder. Let me go get a good link for you guys. I'm going to share with you guys a story formula that I use as the foundation of basically anything that I teach and share. And this is the thing, it'll get you on my email list, but it actually will teach you something about storytelling. Let me make sure that goes to everybody. Oops, everyone. It'll teach you some pretty solid basics on storytelling. I'm actually kicking off right now because I'm kicking off a new cohort of a program that I run called Speakeasy for speakers. And so that's why I have to jump off. But what I will be doing in the very beginning of this cohort with this new is we're going to be going over this information that's about how to tell your story, because they need to know that before they start building their talk, right? So really whatever you're doing, if you're doing emails or you're on your social media, you need to know how to tell a good story. And a lot of people don't know the mechanics of storytelling. So that's a good one for you.
I love that.
And I appreciate this so much. I wish I could hang out longer. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. Those are my 3 main channels that I hang out on. And I would love for you guys in the chat, come over and say hello, send me a DM today. I'm at Light Beamers. That's the name of my business. So please come connect with me. Tell me you were on the call today. Let's open up a conversation and just connect. That's what I love to do.
I love it. Thank you, April, for being here. We so
Bye,
appreciate
April.
that. Guys, go check out that link. Go get your story handled.
Bye,
All right. Thank
April.
you so much, Monique.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Brenna. Thanks, Megan.
See you
Bye,
next.
everybody.
Bye. You know what? I just want to add, it's funny, like I'm always working on my storytelling and I've read all the books and I know April, and it's like something you can never stop working on, just like copy, right? Like your copywriting skills and your storytelling skills. But I just wanted to mention one of the benefits, and I'm not a storytelling expert, but I think that stories, we live in whether you choose to use social media or other ways to market your business, it's noisy out there and people are tired and we're also really bored. We are living in a,
Say them again. Which ones are what
like,
noisy,
think about how you scroll.
and bored.
We're tired, we're bored, and we need ways. Actually, so this is a really good example because like TikTok, you know, whether you love it or you hate it or whatever, like I think that some platforms don't make it easy to remember somebody's business name or what makes them different. And I think that we live in this time where it's really noisy. We all have a lot going on. And we might not remember somebody who we actively want to learn from. And so we need to make connections. Like we need literal, like neural pathways to be built for me to remember, oh yeah, I want to improve my pre-launch, you know, plan. I want to, who's that person for that, right? And it's funny because Brenna, I think I heard about you via Gemma a while ago, but then I was trying to, I was like, you know, no one's talking about pre-launch. Everybody's talking about launch, and someone reminded me about you and I was like, oh yeah. And guess what? You were hosting your virtual summit or your audio summit. So I was like, well, you know, I'm not an audio girl. I'm not a podcast girl, but I started listening on my dog walks. And it was because you had some guests who I'm friendly with. So like Monique, one of them, Dama. But I want to say that in this time where we are tired, it's saturated, it's noisy, is that storytelling also just from like a regular marketing perspective differentiates you and makes you memorable. So I might not remember like, you know, every little thing about somebody, but there'll be something that hooks me in. Monique, the fact that, you know, you became a mom and you like one of the first things you said to me was like, I had a kid and dropped off the earth. Like you made a joke about that. And like literally that rings through my brain every time I think about you now because we knew each other and we kind of lost touch because of life. And then we come back together and it's like there needs to be, that's a story, right? So it's like it's the way that I remember because I'll be doing business stuff and then my toddler is like, Mommy, I need a snack. Mommy, look at Peppa Pig. And I love you guys, but I can't always remember, right? I can only have set 7 things plus or minus 2 in this brain.
I totally agree. My brain is like, I'm not even gonna say
Swiss cheese.
It's pretty bad. But I love, okay, so I love that April had teed this up because I have done my research on you guys, but I forgot she was a television producer formerly, right? Like from before that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to forget that piece now. So I know Brenna, you had started, you have had a little bit of a journey and I want to talk about both of you guys, like, and just how you get started. I'm not necessarily like, I didn't need everyone to like go and do their bio for you guys because you guys all signed up. You knew who the hell was going to be here. Okay. Like this is never interesting, but I would love to know, I would love you to share a story, Brenna, about how you got started and how, you know, you've taken a couple of turns. But you started off like we usually start a business out of necessity and just like what the F is going on. So could you share that with people? Because I find yours, you know, I find it interesting.
Yeah, I joke it was like a partial midlife crisis when I started my business. So I was about to turn 40 and I was working at the time for a website development company and they had pulled back on my hours, but it was really flexible. My kids are older. It was really important for me to volunteer and stay home with them, taken to school and pick them up. And so when they pulled back on these hours, at the same time, I had been doing like a little bit of social media marketing, and I should say I started my business through like midlife crisis and vanity, because at the time I was helping a friend who was starting a business, and she was an esthetician and she did eyelash extensions. And so I said, hey, like, why don't I do some of your social media, which by the way, I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't even on social media myself. And I was like, I'll do some of your social and you'll give me eyelashes. And so we swapped. And so it was like this perfect collision. It was like, I was turning 40. I felt like I wasn't where I wanted to be in my life. I had this like job, but someone just pulled back hours on. And I started my business because I wanted to make $500 extra a month for my electricity bill. And so I could get Botox without guilt. And so that's why I started my business. So it was a little bit of necessity, a little bit of vanity. And so I went on to Facebook, which I had never really had a Facebook account. I actually had a fake profile that I would do like work on. So I got myself like a real Facebook account with like real friends. And I said, hey, I'm going to do, if you want me to post on your social media, and if this is something you want someone else to do, I started a business doing this, and I got clients immediately. I also I didn't just do social media though. I did Pinterest. I did blogging. I worked for like $2 an hour initially. And I got sucked into what I call this like underground world that we live in, which is online marketing. Like people don't realize what's there and what's out there. And that's how I got started. I called myself a social media manager, realized I didn't know what the heck I was doing, started educating myself, if you will, and this is something that's really important to me too, is because at the time, I didn't have thousands of dollars to spend on courses. A business coach, like I didn't even know what a business coach was. So I literally like went to the library and got books from like Gary Vee and, listening. So I just started to educate myself, and I realized very quickly I was doing my own marketing on my own social media to experiment, and people started to point out that I was a good writer and that they liked my writing. And so I decided I hated social media, and I pivoted pretty quickly within the first year over into email copywriting and became a copywriter, which I still love copywriting. It's it's my first love. And through my email copywriting, eventually I started writing for launches. I started doing sales page, landing pages, websites, all the things, and eventually noticed a hole in the market, which was pre-launch. That I was a part of 2 launches in particular that didn't go super great. And I was just like, okay, how come I can write copy sometimes? What's the missing thing here? And I really started to see a hole in our market, which is people are missing the most important part of their launch, which is the pre-launch. And so, very quickly, I guess, I took on a private client, and I said, I have this idea for this process. So I took all of that social media knowledge, all that copywriting knowledge, and I kind of merged them into a process that I developed, which is the pre-launch process. And so that's my journey. But I think sometimes, like I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she's just like, I don't know what I want to do next. Like, I feel like I need to do something. And I think that's too, like, you can use your marketing, you can use talking to people and doing all these things to start to, yes, we want to make sales, but if you're also in like a bigger sense, just doing the thing will help start to direct you on where you should go and the path that you should go on.
Botox. The $500, a little bit of necessity, a little bit of vanity. I love it because it was
this 46-year-old forehead would not look like this without.
Good. You're looking good. Whatever got you there, we're happy to have you here, Brennan. That's all that really freaking matters. And that you ended up noticing this hole around pre-launch. And for anybody in the chat who has a launch coming up, I'd love for you to put a 1 in the chat so Brenna knows who you are. She's got a lot of great strategies and things that she can definitely share with you. And I know we're at the top of the hour, or a little past the top of the hour, so some people have to like hop off. So I just want to make sure we capture that. But I want to throw it to you, Megan. We have to talk about this search engine called Pinterest. We need to talk about not just Pinterest itself.
Oh, it's getting juicier too. There's some new stuff that just came out in the last week.
Well, I saw you were been posting some things about the things people have been lying about Pinterest and
Oh
stuff.
man.
I feel
Oh,
like people need to know
I could
what
talk about it all day. So
what is this for? What's happening? Should we be on it? Who should be on it?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Well, let's back it up a notch. I think that when I talk about, like, without getting into all the messy details, like, there's a real story behind it in that I'm either on fire or I've completely disappeared. And it's like people say that. They're like, you're on fire. And it was like, I don't know what it is. It's like they dump a bucket of water on me and I'm just like, life is life and I'm out of here. But my entire business has been built on search engines and it was sort of accidental. I started as a blogger. And I, like Brenna, kind of like, got lots of experience because I've been doing this a really long time. So I've been online since 2010. And in the early days, like we didn't even call ourselves virtual assistants. Like we didn't have that term, but I worked for somebody like Brenna. I took on a client. I was desperate to make money. And so I started blogging. I always read blogs. I started blogging myself. And I started realizing that I was like, I didn't want this online part of my life to be driven like that. It would only happen if I was spending every day, all day taking pictures. Like I'm that person, I go to a family event and I'm so in the moment with my family, laughing with my family, playing with the kids that I won't take a single picture. And I've always been like that, right? Like I sometimes regret it, but I'm like in the moment. And so that is reflected in my marketing that I need things to work for me when I'm not working. And it's why I fell into Pinterest. It's why Google has always been my best friend. And I've more recently been teaching and talking about this idea of like social media or marketing that is optimized for search. And what that means is that you engage in activities no matter where you are. Almost all social media platforms are becoming searchable. So Instagram is rolling out in beta right now SEO, like it's AI driven, where they will like help you to navigate your Instagram, or regular people. They will navigate Instagram using AI. Guess how it decides to show people posts and accounts? The
Tell me.
SEO that those people have been using. They don't care what you post about. They really don't. It's driven by how you've been indexed. YouTube, visual search engine. Pinterest, visual search engine. TikTok, search engine. And here's the latest thing out of Google. So Google just announced lots of new changes coming from Google. People are saying, oh, blogging is dead, SEO is dead. It's not dead. But if you do publish your podcast episodes, if you publish blog content that lives on your website, Google will only rank that content if it's being shared to social media, which Pinterest is included. So they are including in the ranking calculation, or how you become like, have a piece of content that ranks in search, is if it's highly shareable. So this is just like, I predicted this a while ago. I hosted a summit on it in February to predict that we are going to see, as social media continues to change, we're going to see that SEO makes it easy for AI and robots to know what we're talking about, to then suggest our content to people. And this is the type of content that has literally built my entire business. I get clients, people buy my products, find my accounts. Like I said, all roads lead to my email list, but I constantly have things working for me that I did months and years ago. Not even, yes, I'm active on social, but if I dip, I'm gone. I still continue to grow because of my SEO efforts.
And that's really what Pinterest is about, right? Like it's about
Yeah.
keywords, it's about search. I've heard this stat. I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was like how things that we post on social has like a shelf life of like a few hours, where Pinterest has a few months.
Yeah, even longer. So
Even
I would
longer.
say, like, the things that drive traffic to my students, my clients, and myself, it's what we pinned last year. It's what we pinned 3 years ago. I used to work for very big bloggers. That was how I started. Actually, that's how I met Jenna. Like, to tie it all in and get to how like we all know each other somehow, is that Gemma and I were both bloggers 10 years ago. And I started learning about Pinterest because I liked that it just felt like I could escape there. I could pin my ideas. I could get inspired. I could find things. It's a planning platform. But what was incredible was the day I realized, like, I went viral overnight. I was like, I went from being like, my ex's mother read my blog, my aunt read my blog, and a few random people who were looking up like DIY tips. I was living in Europe and I was like, oh, I'm gonna start blogging. And so I did. And I woke up to like 25,000 page views. Like, I went from like, a few hundred to 25,000 in 24-hour time period. It was because someone pinned one of my projects and it went viral on Pinterest. And it's kind of when I clued in, I was like, wait a sec. We can put our things on Pinterest and then people pin them and then it drives traffic and then, like, Bob's your uncle. And that's kind of how I got started in this Pinterest world. So Pinterest allows you to repurpose your content to drive people to your website or whatever you want. If you use Instagram, drive traffic to your Instagram account. If you're a podcaster, drive people to your podcast. If you're a YouTuber, you drive people to YouTube. I think the old days of where you only use it to drive traffic to your blog is over. Pinterest, they're happy for you to use your stand store. They're happy for you to promote your podcast, your YouTube channel, your Instagram, your TikTok, anything you want, really. And it's this beautiful, unsocial social media. We aren't talking there. You're pinning, it's working. You said the shelf life. It's true that I think when you look at the numbers, the data is roughly that a pin, the shelf life is about 3 months, but I would say, just like having worked with thousands of people, generally the things that are making them sales today and driving traffic is anything from the last 5 years. And that's what I think people really love about it, is it layers in this. It's also something we can control, because, there is a part where you can have a video pop off on Instagram and it can change your life. It can happen on TikTok, YouTube. But the thing is, it feels like it's really random sometimes, or you go viral for not your business, which happens all the time to people on TikTok. So
that
I
happened
think
to me on Instagram.
did it?
My number one viral 500,000 plus. It was like a remix of somebody else's, and I'm just sitting there and I'm watching it, and then I'm putting my own little comments. But it brought in like drones of the not my customer, and I was that kind of sucks,
Well, it's you're always playing this balance of like creating content that you want to create, but when you are a business owner, does it relate to your business? So is there a reason why you're doing it? Is it to humanize you? Is it to share a part of your life or your perspective? And I think, we have to acknowledge that not everything has to be perfect and calculated and planned. But I do think what I also love is SEO and optimizing my Pinterest account or helping people do that. It feels within my control. There is so much outside of our control right now. And so, of course, like, you can optimize your efforts, but who hasn't, spent 5 hours creating an Instagram reel and nobody sees it? Like,
Okay. So this brings me to my next thing. I want to ask each of you, before we go, I want to know, is there something that you experimented with that you had no idea if it was going to work marketing wise, and it either was a complete and total failure or it like took off like gangbusters? Brenna, is there something you can think of that like you were like, this totally worked, I didn't even see this coming, or I really put some effort into this and it totally like tanked?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. There's so much I've done that's tanked over the years, right?
Me too. I was like, in the last few months, I was like, I've sold a $47 thing because I was like, oh, everybody wants this. Not one person signed up. I sold a $275. Some of you guys in here, I sent you the invite for my $250 workshop. Didn't work. And then I went and did a webinar that was free. And
looks like she's cutting out a little bit there.
Oh, I wasn't sure if it was me.
No, I think it's her, because I can see, I'm like, you're not frozen and I'm not frozen. Well, Monique is
what's done really well.
Oh, wait. You cut out there for a while, so we missed we saw the beginning and the end. You did.
The hard
it's
line.
okay.
My arms got excited and the hard line came out of the computer.
Oh, there you go. That's why. Well, listen, I think we all have things that have bombed, right? Like things that we thought were a good idea. Yeah. So you froze after you mentioned a webinar. We didn't hear after
and that was the good part. I did a webinar for free, no charge, and I ended up selling $15,000 in services, like in a week. And I was like, wow, nobody wants these little whatever nuggets from me. It's just not what they wanted. So my question to Brenna was, has something happened that's taken off or something that's plummeted? And you were like, I didn't see that coming.
I think there's always time where we don't see things coming, right? I think it's experimenting. And so that's how I look at it a lot of times. So I think, I started a membership with a partner that didn't work out, that bombed. That was a 2020, a lot of time and effort into a business that didn't work. But I don't want to, it sounds so cheesy and cliche, like you always learn from something, right? Like, but you do learn from something.
I learned
right?
I don't want to put that amount of effort into a $47 workshop.
Yeah, I've learned that I'll probably never run a membership again, and we could talk. I won't go into the reasons why, but I just don't. So I won't do a membership again. But maybe that saved me. It's also helped me. I have a lot of people who do have successful memberships. It's helped me become a strategist. So I do think that I'm thankful because I've literally done every service that you can imagine, from memberships to high-end one-on-one services to courses to all the things, workshops. So the thing I go back to, the thing that took off, which was going back to behind the launch and doing this summit, like I was hopeful that it would work, but I was also really, really nervous that I would embarrass myself not. It's one thing when you're doing your own marketing. It's another thing when you ask people and collaborators to come in and do something with you. And that first behind the launch I called in a lot of favors from a lot of friends and asked them to become part of something. And I was hopeful, but terrified at the same amount of time. Like, what happens if people hated it? What happens if it hurt my reputation? What happens if it bombed? What happens if people thought doing something on Voxer was dumb? Like all of that. So I think there's always, unfortunately, we don't know the hits or misses, which is why we have to experiment, which is what marketing is. Like, marketing is an experiment.
I love that. And I want everyone to, if nothing you leave from today, marketing is an experiment. And then when you hit the nail on the head, go double down on it. Megan, I know you've got a couple of questions in the chat. It's very Pinterest specific, but I'm going to copy those and send those to you so you can, because they're going to get more techie and we're going to let that, don't worry, all your questions.
Yeah. Or just send me a DM on Instagram. Don't worry. I'll make a reel about it.
Okay. Content. So the last thing I wanted to ask you guys is I want to talk a little bit about AI before we go. And I'm just curious if you use it and how you use it, if you use it in your marketing. And if you have any either tips or warnings. I love ChatGPT and I love what it does to prompt things and make things fast. One of the key things I use it for is for clarity. Because we were talking about mom brain earlier, this is a real thing, guys. I'm not even joking. I will write a sentence and it will not make a piece of sense. And if I go and drop it into ChatGPT and say, can you make this sound clear? Literally verbatim, it'll make it sound clear. And I'm like, great, now I can copy and paste it and I don't need to rely on, my brain fatigue to make this shit go out when it needs to go out. Are you guys using it and how are you using it?
Yeah, I use it.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But yeah, I use it. I used it yesterday. I use it for in the pre-launch plan program. It's actually streamlined a ton of our research. When we do voice of customer, so I show people how to take all of this voice of customer, how to put it into AI, how to have it organize it for you, how to pull out dialogue. I use it to, when I write an email and I feel like it's rough, I'll go and throw it in. And this I've learned from my friend Belinda Weaver. And I will just give it a simple prompt, not to change my writing, but to help smooth out the edges, keep the essence of what I've already written. And it will smooth things out. I'll pull a sentence here or there, I might not have everything that it says, but I'll yank something out. Oh, that sounds way better than what I would have said. Or, oh, I didn't think of it quite that way. Even simple things I was writing for, I have some private clients I do some writing for occasionally. And we were using the same word over and over and over again. And I was just instead of me in my past, I would have had to figure out 5 different ways to say the same thing. And I just throw it into ChatGPT. I actually like Claude a lot too, because Claude, you can put a ton more information in.
Wait, what's Claude? What's Claude?
I
don't know Claude. How do I spell it?
So Claude, I think actually isn't available in Canada yet, or it just recently
Oh.
became available. Us Canadians, we're like the cousins that, you know, you don't always know if we have the, we spell things different.
To the barbecue.
But know what I did figure out from Keith Lee's TikTok is that Canadian cities have much more diverse food than American cities, with the exception of New York City. Random niche knowledge, which we should have a whole nother call about. I wonder, so like Brenna, so like Claude with an E, like the French Claude, right?
Oh, got it. I should know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So I actually am very similar in the way that I use it. So I was very skeptical. I should just say that, like, I was like in December, I was like, I do not know, a December a year ago when people started talking about it. I was like, no, I don't want to talk about it. Keeping my head in the sand. I'm going to see how this lands. For me, it was just like, I just was hesitant. I wanted to see what ended up happening. And for me, oftentimes I find with my like squirrely, got a lot going on, ADHD brain, undiagnosed, but I used to diagnose it in other people. So I'm sure I have it.
I diagnosed myself a few months ago.
Yeah, we should go for coffee and I'll let you know if you actually have it. It's so funny.
Yes, so funny.
My husband recently, I was like, well, it's probably because you're ADHD. And he was like, oh my gosh, that's the first time you've actually straight out said it to me. Do you actually think I have it? I was like, oh, 100% you have ADHD.
Oh my God. Okay. But yeah, we'll do a reel about it, guys. Okay, bye.
But so I use it to help me get organized. And I often find that with my own marketing, like I said earlier, this is like looping back. I have clarity for other people, but sometimes in my own work, I'll just get stuck at something. Brenna mentioned like reworking a sentence or reworking a particular word. So I use very specific tools. I tend not to use it for broad topics, but I will write my own caption or my own email. Then I'll take that copy and I'll say, can you help me adjust this to be a LinkedIn caption? I also use ChatGPT to take my writing and to bring it down to a grade 5 or grade 6 level. I tend to write at about a grade 12 level, which the average reading comprehension level of somebody in North America, in someone in Canada is grade 6 level, in the US it's grade 5. So I often say, please put it at a grade 5 to grade 6 level. And it just reduces my like overly fancy words that I didn't mean to use, and make it easier to understand across the board. I test subject lines in using CoSchedule. I have an app called Fathom, come to all my calls and take notes. Oh my God, the best, like the best. So there's like little ways that I also will help to improve Pinterest copy. I don't ever let AI do its own thing completely, but I basically just adjust things. I just have it like Brenna, like I'll say like, can you help me make this shorter? Is there any ways that I can make this more clear and simple to understand? And oftentimes it's just about sort of like moving things forward for me and getting the ideas going, and it will help, just adjust my language or help get me moving. So yeah, but I never let it do the driving. I had a long conversation with my father-in-law. He worked for Microsoft for 45 years. AI has been in our world for years. We just don't realize it, but we have benefited from the use of AI with computer programming for years. It's just more now everybody has access to it. So the way that it's used is very different. But I think that you have to remember you need to be the person in control. Don't ask it to guess on things that could be factually incorrect. I would never ask it. If you ask it for Pinterest marketing advice, it's generally awful. If you ask it to write a Pinterest pin description, it will write an Instagram caption. And that does not work. Those are not the same thing. So you just have to remember you are the expert. Make sure you can critically analyze it, fact check it. It says things wrong all the time. My husband's a computer programmer or a web developer, and he will sometimes double check code. And ChatGPT, people use ChatGPT to do their like website code. It's wrong all the time and it can't fix code. So that's where you need to know, how can I go in there and remedy this problem? Or having so much copy expertise like Brenna, you probably would just know like this doesn't flow well or this feels awkward. but the AI might not realize that, right? Like there's just like things like that when you're a subject matter expert, you can do that little like check.
I love that. Guys, keep ChatGPT hasn't been around long enough for us to depend on it for it to be factual anything. I love that, guys. I love that you guys share that. We are at time. I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing so generously with everybody. Guys, thank you for those who stayed here. And the replay will be available for 7 days. So if you missed anything or you want to go back and take notes, you will be able to do that. And if you know that you are going to need help in any of these areas, make sure you reach out to these ladies, get on their email lists, follow them on social, drop into their DMs. Like, I do not bring anybody here who is not a expert, amazing, generous human. Don't go and bombard them with a bunch of questions that you know you need to be paying for. That's not what I meant by that. You know what I meant, okay? Brenna, Megan, and April, by way of her cohort right now. Thank you guys for being here, and I appreciate you. And I cannot wait to see what we all do next.
Right.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
We didn't get to do
Bye.
a screen video. Oh, April's not here.
I did.
Screenshot.
I
you
did
do
one. I did.
Okay, good.
I'll send
I
it
have
to
one
you.
too.
Okay.
Okay, DM it to me. DM it to me. I'm going to share it on social. Share it on social, guys.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.